key infrastructure and institutional investment for Terra, the Astro Wars go live, and a whole bunch more. This is the Lunar Orbit podcast, and today is Friday, the 29th of April of 2022. Now hit that like button like a last minute winner, and let's get into it.
Keeper's coming up is the last attack of the game. Allison! Oh my days! Oh my days!
The first thing I wanted to cover today was Expedition AR, which is the new augmented reality game inspired by Pokemon Go that Kwon announced on Twitter. Now, I'm not going to go into it too much because I did a video on this topic yesterday, so give that a spin if you want to learn a little bit more about it. But just briefly, the idea is that this is an augmented reality game where users can point their smartphone towards the night sky, towards the moon each night, and associate that activity with the lunar icon and potentially win some prizes in the form of NFTs, crypto assets like Lunar or UST. It's a way to introduce Terra to normal people. It looks like it's already driving a lot of interest. In the first day alone, they had 65,000 people sign up to it. Now, to keep that into perspective, there's only about 80,000 to 100,000 daily active users on Terra right now. So to have 65,000 people sign up to this app in short order is pretty impressive, and hopefully this means we can onboard a bunch of new people into the ecosystem. Okay, the next thing I wanted to talk about is something that's often unloved, does not get much attention and much hype unless it's broken, and that is critical infrastructure around blockchains in general. Now, as much as we're trying to be decentralized, the fact remains that most blockchains still use a lot of centralized entities for some of their key infrastructure, particularly Amazon Web Services. So Setten.io is looking to help rectify that by providing some bare metal services that the community can use to have specific hardware that's being set up and run and maintained just for use within the Terra ecosystem. Their website here goes into it in a bit more detail, but one thing I really like about it is they're trying to set themselves up to be used by community members that have a more technical development mindset. So having more diversity in the hardware and services that people can use to run their nodes can only be healthy for the ecosystem. One cool thing about Setten is that they're going to allow aspiring devs to use their services in some capacity for free. Now, most devs don't want to have the burden of managing their own hardware and infrastructure and worrying about validator uptime when they can just use a platform like this. The less technical people might not realize that there's actually a lot of open source software that anybody can use on the Terra blockchain. For instance, here's the AnchorHODL bot. It allows a user to protect their loan to value ratio when it meets a certain threshold. So if you're borrowing aggressively in Anchor and have some UST sitting in Anchor earning 19% interest, and the market plunges overnight, this bot can automatically protect you. Setten also have their own validator that you can delegate your Lunar stake to, and I'll put the link in the description below this video. Another example of some valuable open source software on GitHub is Stakehouse, which was created by Delphi digital dev Larry 0x. And as we can see here, Larry's even building a front end for this software, which is an open sourced alternative to something like Lido and Stata Labs, and their liquid staking tokens of Lunar. Larry also does a lot of good things for the space, including running IBC relayers, so maybe consider delegating to his validator also. Before I continue, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Hi, I'm Gerry, host of the Lunar Orbit podcast, where I provide regular alpha and updates on all things Terra Luna. And if you enjoy this content, consider supporting the channel by smashing that like button, hitting subscribe, and hitting the notifications bell so you get all my videos in a timely fashion. Next up was the massive news that Matt from the Anchor protocol is referencing here, and that's that Fireblocks, the massive institutional custodial service, is now onboarding institutions directly into the Terra ecosystem. The significance of this cannot be understated. Over $500 million has flown into Terra in the last 2 weeks alone through Fireblocks, and institutions can use the Wallet Connect app to integrate directly into the Anchor protocol, Astroport, and others, as seen by this tweet here from Remi. As more and more mechanisms are created to keep the UST peg stable, such as the BTC and AVAX reserves, the mass liquidity of UST that is flowing across multiple blockchains and centralized exchanges, and things like peg protection insurance, institutions will start gaining more trust in Terra as a platform, and I only see more institutional money flowing in through services like Fireblocks. Simply buying and holding Lunar is one thing, but being able to use the Terra DeFi ecosystem to generate further yields is another thing entirely, and many institutions have a fiduciary responsibility to get the best yields possible for their clients. Next up is this breadcrumb from the Kujira team. Pay half and receive double. This magic exists. Now, if you're not familiar with Kujira, suggest you watch this video that I made 2 weeks ago, where I give a practical demonstration of how Kujira works, but in essence it's a liquidation service for people that are over leveraged on Anchor, where users can come and place bids to buy up their distressed assets at a discount. So being able to buy twice as much of someone's collateral for half the cost sounds very intriguing indeed. Now, if I had to guess, I would say it's got something to do with the contract-to-contract lending protocol with Mars, where people can get 2x leverage. But that is just a guess. The other thing that comes to mind, potentially, of this wizard emoji, perhaps it has something to do with the Kinetics protocol and its self-repaying loans, which was inspired by the Alchemex protocol, which was founded by Scoopy Trooples, who also uses a wizard as their avatar, but maybe I'm just reading into it. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the Lunar burn rate and its effect on the circulating and total supply. This graphic is a good representation of just how much Lunar we're burning, and as you can see, the Lunar burnt from the total supply has basically doubled inside 4 months. Looking at the Terra analytics on SmartStake's website, we can see the circulating supply is basically at an all-time low, and the total supply keeps dropping. And some days we're burning over 1 million Lunar. Loop Finance has developed a front end to help people manage their leverage positions within Anchor and allow them to loop more easily. And it can be found on defi.loop.markets. Now it's still in beta, and I'm sure they're going to add more features over time, but it's nice to see this functionality built into a DEX, where a user can easily swap between the assets they need, manage their loan to value ratio in a seamless fashion. Now the last thing I wanted to mention was the Astro Wars. They are now live, and it looks like we're going to have at least 5 protocols competing to win as much market share of the staked Astro tokens and our LP positions within them. Now I won't go into this in great detail because DanQR does a great job of doing exactly that in this video. And as you can see from this screen alone, there's an awful lot going on here. The Reactor protocol and Retrograde Money are both launching their tokens in the coming days. So if you want to get involved and understand how this all works, I suggest you give DanQ's video a watch. One thing I found really interesting is that Reactor and Retrograde Money both have investments from Delphi Ventures. And to make things even more interesting, the Apollo DAO actually was part of the seed raise for Retrograde. So there could well be a lot of bribes and a lot of back scratching going on between protocols who would be competing for Astro tokens overall, but might be using each other's protocols to boost particular LP pools. In any case, having so much competition can only be healthy for the ecosystem. Thanks very much for watching. If you enjoy this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and maybe consider watching one of my other videos.